Hello, and thanks for joining us for this presentation of Thrive During Construction, a workshop for small businesses who are faced with road construction projects on a street near you. My name is Ian Karlstrom. I'll be presenting today. I'm the Regional Director for the West Central Minnesota SBDC. This presentation is brought to you in partnership between the Minnesota SBDC and the Minnesota Department of Transportation. Here's a quick overview of our time together. I'll try to get us out of here in about 40 minutes. It'll be a deep dive, but keep in mind, this is a video, so if you need to pause it or rewind it, that's totally okay. Whatever helps you get the most out of this. And certainly if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. First, I'll introduce our SBDC and who we are, what we do. Then we'll jump right into our feature presentation of road construction and what should you as a business owner do when you first find out that road construction is scheduled near you. We'll reflect a little bit on some impacts that this construction might have on your business. We'll share some tips and takeaways from other clients and other businesses who have gone through these types of projects. And we'll go into different strategies on how to thrive during construction. And then we'll put this all together in a strategic business plan that will serve you through this project, but also through the life of your business. So first, let me introduce the SBDC. We are America's Small Business Development Centers. We were established back in 1980 to serve the whole U.S. So we've got over 1,000 centers across the country, and we serve about 1 million entrepreneurs every year. Our teams of trainers, counselors, advisors, consultants provide free, confidential, one-on-one small business assistance. We cover a lot of general topics across all sorts of industries, and we also have different certifications and credentials to make us subject matter experts in a lot of different areas. We serve startups all the way through the life of the business. So whether you're a startup or an existing business, we can help. And we're one of the SBA resource partners alongside of the Women's Business Center, Apex, SCORE, VBOC. All of us are great resources to help small businesses. So now let's jump right into our feature presentation of road construction. So you, as the business owner, just found out that road construction is coming to your street. What do you do? I'm sure the first thing you're thinking about is how might this road construction affect your business? Not only for you as the owner, but for your employees, for your customers, and for your business. How will you survive this? Well, we're not here just to talk about surviving this. We're here to talk about thriving. So a lot could happen, right? A lot of the stuff that we're thinking about that's coming to mind now might be knowable, might be controllable. A lot of these factors might not be, right? Some change of plans might happen, or a little surprise, or something we forgot to prepare for. So don't get too hung up on all the things we do know, because undoubtedly there'll be some things that we don't know. And one of the things that we do know fundamentally is this is not going to be business as usual. This is going to be a little bit of friction, right? Customers don't like friction. Employees don't like friction. All of us these days, we're used to intuitive design, autofill, AI learning, path of least resistance. Friction is just those little things that take away from all of that. So I just want to take a second to remind ourselves that we just got out of the pandemic, right? And that was a long 3 years. That was a lot of unpredictable, unknowable, uncontrollable, and certainly didn't fare well for all businesses. But I will say that many businesses did thrive, even through the pandemic. And they were able to do that because they were able to learn, adapt, pivot, change. And they're probably still doing a lot of the things that they learned through the pandemic. And they certainly didn't thrive by doing business as usual, right? So I just want to take a moment to remind ourselves that we can get through that. We can get through this. This is going to be a lot shorter of a project, much more knowable, much more controllable. But one bit of feedback that we keep getting whenever we give this presentation is that business owners want us to continue to just ask this question directly. How prepared is your business to weather a dip in business? I always like to prepare for the worst. We can expect the best, but if we prepare for the worst, everything else is a happy surprise. And so for some businesses, this dip might be a little, some might be a little bit more. Some, frankly, might not be a dip at all because you're proactive. You're thinking about how do we get through this, and it might be an opportunity to do better. So first step, don't panic. And then through this presentation, here's our approach. We're going to start with how do you use a strategic analysis to give a little bit of an environmental scan, look at your strengths and weaknesses, get the wheel spinning, and take a look at a strategic analysis before we take a look at our financials what are our financials telling us where we are now, and what are our financials telling us about where we could be through this? We'll take a look at our marketing and see how that's working for you and how it will work for you moving forward. And then putting that all together in a strategic business plan. This process isn't one that you can do once and will forever serve your business. This is something that you need to rinse and repeat and update. These are living, breathing documents, and the more you update them, the more they will serve you. This process is all about working on your business, not just in your business. Before we get started, I always remind us that our mindset matters. Our mindset is either working for us or against us, and we want to make sure it continues to work for us. So just reminding ourselves that we're focusing on our circle of influence, not just all the things concerning us. We're not going to be the victim of the situation. We're going to take ownership. We're going to choose to thrive and not just survive. We have an abundance mindset, and we're not going to get stuck in scarcity mode. One of the things that we'll talk about today is the marketing rule of 7, that we have to tell our customers something 7 times for them to finally act on it. So after that 5th time of telling them, we're not going to get down on ourselves and say, well, we've told them 5 times, why aren't they listening? Instead, we're going to say, we've told them 5 times, only 2 more to go. Okay, so this growth mindset will help serve you best in times of challenge like this. Now let's do a little speed round of some tips and tricks that we've learned from other businesses who have gone through this. Many of these will create kind of the framework of our presentation and we'll go into more depth. But basically, here's some best practices that we've learned. Number 1 is stay informed ahead of time, get involved. The Department of Transportation sends out correspondences, they put on public events, they listen to your questions and concerns. They'll have a business liaison that will communicate through the project. Your city is a good resource, your chamber, your business associations that you're a part of. All these organizations want to help you be informed ahead of time so that you can prepare for this. There may or may not be mitigation programs or dollars available to you. Again, I'm not promising that there will be, but this is one example of something that you might find out about if you stay informed, okay? You certainly won't hear about it if you don't pay attention. And there's help out there, whether it's money or whether it's assistance. Take advantage of that. It's there for you. It's not going to serve you if you ignore it. Befriend the construction and contractors. Here's why. Over the next couple of months, these people might be your customers for one, but the other thing is they're going to have a really good source of information for you. So they might be able to give you the heads up that they're going to be jackhammering right in front of your front door someday, or they might be able to give you a heads up that the next week's going to be pretty quiet, and that's your opportunity to do something outdoors, or whatever that might be. They're going to be a great source of information, and they just might walk in your front door and support you. Form alliances. So if you look to your left, look to your right, look across the street, all the businesses around you are going through this together. Nothing's stopping you from working together, collaborating, pooling resources. As the old saying goes, rising tides lift all boats. So work together and rise those tides. Build dedicated cash reserves. Okay, this is one thing that's always better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. We'll talk a little bit more about financial planning in this presentation. And we'll also talk about marketing. Okay, the number 1 takeaway from today is communicate early and communicate often. We'll talk more in a minute about that. Utilize media strategically. So this road construction is going to be in the news, on your newspaper, in your local news. And it's certainly going to be something that makes you look like you're potentially suffering or being affected by this negatively. But the thing is, you can own your story. Your customers don't want to hear a victim story from you. They want to hear you having fun. They want to see you thriving. They don't want you to go out of business, right? Then they won't have anywhere local to shop. So figure out a way to have fun. Celebrate the start of this thing. Celebrate the finish of this thing. Especially celebrate the finish. You'll have a brand new road, right? After all, it's hard to beat somebody having fun. So don't be the victim in your story. Own your story. And the last takeaway is create a strategic business plan. This doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just put something on paper that helps guide you, that helps remind you of that little battle that you're doing every day is aligned with this bigger goal to get you through the summer. Okay. Here's where we're going to start today is a strategic analysis. We're going to use a simple SWOT exercise. Now, you might be thinking this is boring, this is stuff they only teach in school, but it's actually a really great way to get the gears turning. A lot of the things that we're going to talk about and pull out of your head during this activity here is stuff that you're already thinking about independently on their own, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats. This activity is just going to bring it all together, put it on paper. And if you entertain me for the next couple minutes, I'll show you kind of the magic that happens as you go through this. So if you found this video on our website, you can find a handout for you on the website. Of course, you could always just start with a blank piece of paper too. But we're going to start with the threats. This is naturally where your head's at. When you're finding out about road construction, you're thinking a threat, because this is an external force that's working against you in business that you want to avoid it, you want to thwart, you want to, reduce the impact of. It's the negative thing. So you're probably thinking about maybe access to your front door, because if the road's closed, how are people going to walk in your front door? Or where are they going to park, right? Or if there's a reduction in foot traffic, maybe that causes a decline in sales or tight cash flow, right? These threats are things that come at us from the outside. This might affect our workflow, our workforce, our inventory. This might cause alternatives and competition to be more available to our customers, because if our customers don't want to drive down the road that's closed to find us, they're more apt to maybe shop online. And consumer behavior and perceptions, right? If our customer thinks that we're closed just because our road's closed, that's a perception that we need to battle that. If we're actually open, we don't want them thinking that we're closed, right? All these things interrupt your business as usual. So I want you to just take a moment to write down any other threats, any other negative things that are coming at you from the outside the business. Pause the video if you have to. We'll keep moving on to opportunities. These are also external things. So continue that theme of looking outside the business. These are positive things, though, that you want to exploit, expand, take advantage of. So things maybe such as access to assistance, the SBDC, your accountant, your attorneys, your insurance person, the resources through the Department of Transportation, your city, your chamber, all these people, organizations, and programs out there that can help you through this, right? Time, perhaps by now you're seeing this well advanced, and time is an opportunity for you. At the very least, this is an opportunity to try new things. So maybe just take a few more moments to write down any other positive outside the business opportunities that may or may not have anything to do with road construction. Then we'll move through to the internal component of this exercise. Now, first, we'll take a look at strengths. Thinking about all those things inside the business, whether they're from a personnel standpoint, the owner, the staff, maybe your customers, taking a look at the business itself, your processes, your supply chain, anything that's inside the business that is a positive thing that you want to build on, that you want to enhance. So right now, maybe you have a loyal customer base and a strong cash position. Maybe right now the competition is pretty low because you're doing really well and you're in a small town that doesn't have a lot of competition, perhaps. We just talked about the growth mindset. That's a strength, right? That'll help you be more creative. And maybe you've got some really good local relationships with other businesses, your chamber, and a really good local network to support your business. There's plenty of other strengths that I know you all have, so take a moment, just jot those down. Again, it doesn't have to be pretty, just bullet list these things. And then still looking internally, thinking about those weaknesses, right? Those things that aren't strengths, that are negative, we want to reduce them, resolve them. So maybe your marketing has been on autopilot for a little while and it's working, but maybe not as good as it used to be. But it certainly won't probably work ideally through this road construction. Maybe your pricing hasn't been up to date with inflation and increases in costs from your supply chain. So maybe this pricing is a weakness for you. Maybe your accounts receivable is a weakness because you've given your loyal customers a little bit of flexibility. So your 30 days receivable is turning into 60 or 90, right? Just take a moment to jot down anything else that comes to mind inside the business here, strengths or weaknesses. Now, the reason that we do this is none of this stuff is new. Some of the road construction related stuff might be new, but you've been thinking about a lot of this stuff for many years, individually, on their own. But when we put strengths right next to weaknesses, right next to opportunities and next to threats on the same piece of paper, and we get this stuff out of our brain and on paper, we start to see some different things, right? Maybe one of our strengths is going to help us with one of these threats, or maybe one of our opportunities will be the solution to avoiding or reducing one of our weaknesses. Or maybe some of these things go in together in a certain project, or we start to see a priority list of things that need to be addressed first, second, third, or less of a priority, right? So hopefully some of these things start to click. You might have even had a little aha moment of your own, but this is a great way to just to get the wheels spinning, right? Get those gears turning so we can start working on the business, not just in the business. The next piece of this is understanding your finances. Now, I get it. You might not be a numbers person, but these aren't just your numbers. These are your dollars, okay? Plus, SBDC is here to help. Your accountant is here to help. You've got a great support system. So the place that we want to start with understanding our finances and figuring out what our finances are telling us is starting with a clean house. Garbage in, garbage out, right? So we want to make sure that we've got good quality data going in, our transactions are reconciled, and that we can pull out a nice report. We'll talk about what those reports are in a second, but we want to be able to pull some good reports with quality information that we can actually trust. So we aren't starting with like a shaky foundation. We can take a look at, historically, what are our finances telling us? Are they telling us that our cost of goods is unstable? There's a lot of inflation going on, or that our expenses are out of control, or maybe that our sales are trending in a really good direction. So there's a lot of different things our finances can tell us. We'll take a look at an example in a moment here, but we can really learn a lot about our business from looking at the numbers. And we can use those historicals as a baseline for forecasting. The simple assumption is this: if we did this year, financial performance, sales, expenses, if everything was the same as last year, that would be very easy to understand where would we be at the end of this year, because it would be the same place we'd be at the end of last year. Well, that's not usually a realistic expectation, right? A lot of things change. But if we copy and paste last year's numbers to this year and we make the known tweaks, maybe you've gotten rid of some expenses, maybe some of your expenses have been, impacted by inflation and they're more expensive this year. Maybe your sales are going up, so we can make a lot of those little known tweaks, copy and paste the rest of the stuff, just assuming it'll be pretty close. And at the end of the day, that tells us a big picture that's probably not too far off, right? Not too many surprises, but it's a nice starting point because we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know exactly where sales or expenses are going to be, but at least it's a nice starting point. Now let's take a look at some of those reports, those financial statements that really help tell us what this looks like, right? So first, we got your profit and loss, P&L, also known as an income statement. This is just a itemized list of expenses and income. And at the bottom of the page, it's net profit. Now, a lot of business owners will ask me, well, why doesn't that look like my bank account balance at the end of the month? Well, that's because that's a little bit more true to that cash flow statement, which it looks very similar to a P&L. It's just adjusted for non-cash transactions. So things like depreciation, where no money actually changes hands, it's just a more or less a write-off. That's not going to affect your bank account balance. So the cash flow tells us a lot more about where's the bank account going to be. And then the third one, of course, is our balance sheet, which is a snapshot in time of our assets, liabilities, equity. It shows how leveraged your business is going to it is. It shows how much debt you have. It can really help guide us on how much debt you can afford, right? So each of these different statements tells us something different, but together they really help tell the big picture. Now, I want to walk us through just a very short abbreviated exercise to kind of show you what your accountant's looking at, what your SBDC is looking at when we take a look at some of these statements. So first, we'll just start with a very abbreviated profit and loss statement. We can see a couple things jumping off the page at us, right? We can see the sales volume and the sales trends month over month. We can see June, July, August are the biggest months in this case, and May, September kind of have that fringe effect, but this month has a nice seasonal positive summer. That's their season. We can see the cost of goods is pretty well set to about 45%. We can see the labor and salaries and fixed expenses. So some of these things really become key business drivers, and we can kind of create what if scenarios. Like, what if um, we were able to reduce our cost of goods sold down to 40%, for example. And we can run some different calculations and see how much money that would save you. We could say, what if we need to add another person and our payroll increases by one person? What if our seasonality, what if our really good season was not so good and we trim that down by 25%? Now, I don't know if 25% is the magic number for this, for road construction, for example, but it's just a what if scenario. So we can take a look at that same P&L and trim down the sales in those good months down by 25%, just to kind of see what would happen. Is your business prepared for something like that? Now, this is showing us that we have a reduction in our total income because of that. Well, that's a no-brainer. But what does that really mean from a bank account balance standpoint? So if we took that same 12-month period from a cash flow standpoint, this is what it looks like normally with our good seasonality. And then this is what it might look like if that was down by 25%, where we can start to see actually there's a bit of a lagging effect to our bank account balance. So by the time we get through May, June, July, and then August is down quite a bit, but then September through the end of the month is actually in the red. It's actually in the negative. So this really helps a business owner prepare to know when they're going to need that cash influx into their business or where they need to make adjustments to account for that. Again, if this is over your head, don't worry at all because your SBDC, your accountant is here to help with this kind of stuff. So let's talk about what do you do when you start to see this? I always love to start with the break-even analysis because it's a great, for a lot of clients, it's a really difficult thing to kind of comprehend, but once we start talking about it, it kind of creates some aha moments. So the break-even analysis is just basically the point where cost equals revenue, and you're not making any money, you're not losing any money. Obviously, from a business standpoint, you don't want to just break even, you want to be above that. But you can run this analysis on a certain product line, on a certain project, just for a day, just for a month, for a whole year. You know, you can really, it's a really dynamic calculation. All you need to know is fixed costs, variable costs, and revenue for either that project, the product, the day, the month, the year. Those three things will help us figure out a quick break even that says, here's the amount of sales that you need to not make any money. So obviously you don't want to do worse than that, but you pretty much have to do better than that if you want to make anything. So what do you do if, going back to that previous slide, you get those negative months that are in the red? That's below your break even. So we'll use the break even analysis to really identify where that is. The first step is to kind of hack the cash flow, right? We can start with our fixed costs and reconsider our budget assumptions. Maybe there's things that we can cut or even just temporarily cut or reduce as much as we can. Or there might even be things that we need to consider adding in this time, such as if there's going to be a dusty road construction project, maybe we need to have a little bit more expenses and effort cleaning so our business looks nice. But at the end of the day, start with those fixed costs because the amount that you can reduce your fixed costs reduces that break even point. It makes it more easy for you to break even and get to that profit standpoint. Then we can also look at variable costs. You know, a lot of times staff can be a variable cost. You know, the more sales, the more labor you need to support more sales. So potentially keeping staff lean is an unfortunate reality in some cases, right? If you're going to expect a decrease in sales, you don't want people standing around doing nothing. Or maybe there's more advantageous projects that those people can work on that's got a little bit more ROI, right? We can reassign staff. Maybe we can take a look at inventory. Inventory is traditionally a variable cost. So what terms do we have? And now that we've been in business for a couple of years, maybe our vendors, we've never missed a payment and our vendors like us. So maybe they can extend our terms. So we have 60-day payables instead of 30, right? I don't know if that's a realistic expectation in your business, but we can explore it, right? What about bulk or wholesale discounts? How can we get better prices so we can reduce that 45% down to 40 or 42%, whatever it might be? Any percentage point counts here. Or maybe we can take a look at our reorder points. stock up now and not make any orders until we get through this, or order less often, whatever those are, because anytime you can reduce your variable costs, you're keeping more dollars out of every sale as profit. So those are all great things. And maybe, if you're planning a reconstruction project of your own, maybe you're remodeling the business and you're going to shut down for a month anyways, maybe this is the best time to do that. I'm not sure if it is for you or not, but these are the things that we can evaluate and put in as a scenario in our financials to see what would happen if we did this or if this happened. We can also look at sources of cash. If the business is going to see a temporary negative cash flow, how are you going to get through that? We talked about building some dedicated cash reserves. That's a great option. So whether you got $100, $1,000, 10,000, anything might help. I always like to start with restructuring your business's existing debt. Sometimes we can refinance our debt to reduce those monthly payments, help optimize the cash flow that way. Maybe we can take a look at the terms or repayment periods. Sometimes, business bankers have different clauses in there where you can have up to X amount of months skipped or interest-only payments. I'm not guaranteeing this, but one thing I do know for sure is your banker does not want you to go out of business, because then he won't get any of his money. Okay, so they'll work with you. And keep in mind, as long as you're smart and healthy as a business, these things are just temporary anyways. So we got to get through this, thrive through this, and that way we can continue to get back to business afterwards. Can also take a look at lines of credits, right? These are great options, potentially great options for you to consider. And it's always good to get approved of this ahead of time, work with your banker proactively so you have it when you need it. We can take a look at, as we get further and further down the list, I kind of tried to put these in order a little bit. So we didn't start with our worst options, but, we can take a look at your personal savings, your personal investments, your retirement, home equity line of credit, right? What if you've got some money saved in your sock drawer? I don't want to advise these as your first option, because if there's a little hiccup in your business and you need money, these are going to be your places to go. And if they're all tapped out and you've got nowhere else to go, that might be a reason to go out of business. And we don't want that, right? So use these cautiously. Another thing to be very cautious about is predatory lending, right? There's all sorts of creative financing out there these days. And there are some things out there that are sales advances, but they're not loans. So they don't have to follow FDIC or any other regulations. They can use whatever terms they want. I've literally had business owners be so proud that they got approved for some financing and it was at a really reasonable rate, but they thought the rate was an annual rate, but it was actually a daily rate. So they were actually paying like 50, 60% APR on their funds. And that's paralyzing when you're in business. Okay. So make good choices, talk to your banker, ask questions, right? Read the fine print, make sure you don't get yourself into a situation that could be negative for the business. And schedule a financial review. Another thing I put on our website for you is a little handout for this. SBDC is here to help with this. Your accountant is here to help with this. We have a confidential program, so you don't have to worry about sharing your information with us. It's not going anywhere, but let's take a look at those numbers, see what they're telling us, and see what types of scenarios will help you best thrive during road construction. And don't overthink it, right? This is not a perfect approach. We don't have a crystal ball. None of this is chiseled in stone. So we need to be prepared for things to change, right? These are living, breathing, working documents. Sometimes we put guesses in there as placeholders, but they're best guesses. So they're not far off, but they're just a guess. This is all just a part of, again, working on your business, not just in your business. So check out that handout available on our website and schedule a financial review with an SBDC near you. So taking a break from the financials, right? Let's talk about communications and marketing. I think this is a little funner topic for many of us who are not numbers people, but this is the time to consider a refresh of your marketing, because this is not business as usual, and doing what you've always done is not probably going to get you what you've always got. Okay. This is road construction. Everything needs to be reconsidered, refreshed. We want to start with the end in mind, and the end might be years down the road, or the end might just be at the end of this road construction project. I want to have not lost any of my customers, not had a reduction in revenue. I want to maintain my sales and revenues. I want to retain those customers, attract new customers. I want to sell through some of my current inventory that's getting old. Or I just want to use this to get really visible online. So my web traffic counts and my social engagement, right? Whatever those end goals are, let's start there and develop a strategy around that. We want to be proactive, get a strategy in place. We'll talk about that now, but we also need to be flexible because things can and do change. And if you're not flexible, if you're stuck in your ways, that might not play well for you here. Okay. And then again, communicate early and often. So number one, we're going to start with our value proposition. What is your business's value proposition? What problem do you solve? Okay. You need to put that solution in the center of your marketing. What makes you unique or better, right? Unique isn't always better. So we want to talk about better type of unique. We want to make sure our customers know that. And we're going to talk more about our solution. We're not going to talk about our competition, right? We know we're better than our competition. We don't need to tell our customers that. We just talk about our solution, be proud of us, and spread the good jujus, right? Good vibes. We don't want to bash our competition just because we think we're better than them, right? And then what is your guarantee? Do you have a guarantee? And a guarantee doesn't mean you have to overpromise anything, but we see guarantees all over the place, right? There's money back guarantees, best price guarantee. We'll match your, the best price you can find. There's lifetime guarantees, free trials, free samples. Sleep on this mattress for 30 days, love it or your money back, right? There's all sorts of guarantees out there. And if you look around, you'll probably start noticing them now that I pointed them out. Does your business have a guarantee? This is a great marketing tactic. And it could be simple. It could be something that you're already doing. You're just a little shy to put a guarantee. It could be a promise, whatever it is. This might be a really great marketing component to you. Then define your customers. So now that you've really gotten clear on what problem you solve, figure out who are the customers that have that problem. Geographically, where are they? Where do they live? Where do they spend time? Where do they spend money? Demographically, who are they? What is their age, gender, income, occupation? You might find out that you solve a problem that young people have, and maybe they're students, but you also solve a problem that moms have. And they're not students, they're a little bit older in their demographics, but they're probably on different social media platforms, for example. So define who those are and where they are. And then psychographically, what do they believe? What do they value? What are their life goals? Their desires, their interests, their lifestyle choices, all those things. Really put yourself in the shoes of your customers and figure out why are they thinking this way. In the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie talks about fundamental techniques in handling people. He makes a point that when you're going fishing, you should consider what the fish want, not what we want. So put a grasshopper on the hook, not, strawberries, right? Fish where the fish are, fish when the fish are hungry. And we're going to use that same kind of common sense approach when we're fishing for people. So really think about who you're serving, what customer demographic, geographic, psychographic has that problem that you can solve. And then thinking about what is your message. So business as usual, right? Your messages are, you got social content going out there, content marketing, you've got blogs, giveaways, competitions or contests, your new product announcements, sales and specials. Maybe part of your message is your solution or your guarantee, but also think about any changes to business as usual that might be brought on by this road construction project. So changes to your hours, staffing changes, how to actually get to your business. What about a change of location, or if you have a delivery or pickup locations? So thinking about all these different messages that you might send out to those people. And where do we put that message? So what channels are we using? So there's all sorts of digital channels like websites, social medias, Google, emails, podcasts, text messages, right? Or print and traditional channels like wayfinding. What if a customer's standing on the street 2 blocks away from you? How do they find you? Are they seeing signs? Are they pulling up their phone to get the, Google address? Are there signs and banners, even if they're just temporary, right? Are there advertisements in the newspapers? Are there advertisements on the radio? Where do they find you? What media are they consuming, when, and why? So I always like to use, social media as a good example. So we just talked about demographic profiles. You might have a product that's meant for young people that are students, for example, and they're probably on TikTok these days or whatever the new one is. I don't know. But if you're also trying to market towards moms, let's just say, those moms are probably on Facebook more likely than whatever the newest channel is that the pop culture, the teens are doing, right? So really think about where are they and why are they? And then, sticking with Facebook, my grandma's on Facebook too, but she really just goes on there to see pictures of her grandkids. If you put business advertisements in front of her, she's just going to get mad, right? So why are they consuming that media? When are they consuming it? Why? Are you just pissing them off, or are you giving them quality content, right? Also, the marketing rule of seven. You have to tell somebody 7 times before they act on it. So really design the experience. How are they going to hear of you 7 times? Are they going to see you 7 times on social? Or are you going to email them and then they'll see you on a billboard and then they'll see you on social media and then they'll see you on a local, newspaper? How are you designing that experience of them touching you 7 times? Some of these things might be permanent and ongoing. Some of these things might just be temporary, just to get you through this road construction project, right? And so the rule of seven, I don't know if seven is the magic number or if it's three or if it's 10, but I would say more is probably not a bad thing. Just remember to get it out there early and often. And communication is key, right? Don't wait until the last minute, but do plan for the last minute. We all know that humans are creatures of habits and we live in an attention economy. So maybe you've got 6 touch points, but then your customer's forgetting about you. So you need to put that last message out there. So it's right at the top of their inbox. Whatever that might be, don't wait till the last minute, but do plan for it. Again, I think I probably told you 7 times by now, but yeah, customers need to hear that message a lot, a lot, a lot. So communicate through multiple channels. Don't try to be on all the channels. That's bad. That's a recipe for failure. You try to do too much and you're not good at any of them. So pick a few and get really active. I would say I've always suggested just be really good at fewer. So pick your favorite 3 and be really good at those. Some marketing people will tell you it's quantity over quality. So on Facebook, for example, just get that out there. Keep, and some of them are going to miss and you'll only have 7 likes and you might be in a little slump for a week, but then the next week you get a post that has 1,000 likes. I don't know, but just get active, get it out there, and you can always delete it too, especially if it's old, right? If yesterday your front door was shut down because of road construction, but today it's not, delete yesterday's post that said your front door is shut down so you're not confusing customers. You can do that. You can delete posts, but be active, be out there talking to people. Tell your customers about the construction. You don't need to avoid it. You don't need to lie to them. They're going to see it in the news. They're going to see it because they're following other businesses. They know it's coming too. They just need you to teach them what to do. Teach them how to get to your front door. Teach them where to pick up the product that they ordered. Teach them how to order it. They're waving dollar bills at you. They just want to know how to spend it with you. And then tell them how will you continue to serve them through this. Don't let them make up stories in their head thinking that you're closed just because your road is closed. Make sure they know that you will continue to serve them. And remember, you're all in this together. Your community is going through this together. You can work together. You look to your left, look to your right, look at all those businesses around you and collaborate together, develop new strategic partnerships. These don't have to be long lasting. They certainly can and often do develop into something like that, but it could just be a short term, we're going to do something today, one time only, we're going to try it out. Maybe just this week or just this road construction project. And if it works, keep doing it. If it doesn't, you don't have to, right? But things like co-op advertising, co-branding, resharing each other's social content, maybe putting your products together in a gift basket that you can all benefit from the sale of. Maybe you're sharing some spaces like workspaces. Maybe you're sharing retail spaces, maybe a pickup location, right? Shared resources or staff. Instead of laying people off, let's get creative to make sure they're still engaged, even if that means they're sort of working for multiple businesses at the same time. And, each of the business contributes to that paycheck somehow. Get creative. And at the end of the day, your community does not want you to go out of business. Your customers do not want you to go out of business. Everyone wants you to succeed. They just need a little extra coordination and instructions from you on how to make sure they can continue to support you. And then lastly, putting all this together, make a plan. So if we talk about business plans, most people just get a blank look, and it's not the funnest thing they could imagine doing. And if they ever have developed a business plan, it might be in that bottom desk drawer. It's like a business biography. It's not what you need right now. So for lack of a better term, let's call it a strategic business plan. Something that really describes your strategies to grow, stabilize, change, adapt, more like a business playbook. Now, I'm not a football expert, but I do know that a lot of football games, for example, are won and lost in those last 2 minutes. And the whole game, they've kept the score really close to one score. And so whoever scores last wins the game. And they know that if you try to do a game-winning touchdown every single play, you're going to burn your players out and you're going to lose the game. So they try to keep it neck and neck so that they can put their best effort right at that last 2 minutes. Now, I'm not saying that's a strategy for business, but really consider, what does your playbook look like for this road construction? What do you want to accomplish? How are you going to get there? What resources are you going to need? When are you going to accomplish it? So putting the who, what, where, when, why in this thing. Keep it lean, keep it simple. Don't write a business plan that you're never going to look at again. That's probably going to be a waste of your time. Okay. I recommend the approach of taking your big goals, right? So those end goals, whether that's increasing revenue, maintaining revenue, retaining customers or attracting new customers, selling out of a certain product line, whatever those goals are, break those down into strategies. And strategies are like projects or campaigns or initiatives that support those bigger goals. And then break those each down into action steps. And those action steps is like a to-do list or just bite-sized activities that you can keep up on a day-to-day basis that keep the momentum going for your goals. Then if you have employees or other people that you can delegate to, everyone's rowing in the same direction, supporting the goal, because you're not going to accomplish these big goals overnight. And if you lose motivation and lose steam, you won't accomplish it. So break them down into bite-sized bits. Your plan can have all sorts of components to it, from financial strategies and considerations to backup plans or backup options. What if this happens or that happens? What if plan A doesn't work? What's plan B look like? Communication, marketing tactics, different activities that you want to do, like open houses, special offers, all those things that you want to do. Write it down. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to live in a Word document. You could use project management software. You could use, tag boards on the wall. Whatever you want to do, just write it down, schedule it. If it's not written down, is it really a plan? As business owners, we got a lot up in our head, but it makes it really hard to share the vision, share the plan, delegate unless it's written down. So write it down. And the last takeaway with that, we can help. SBDC can help with that. Contact us with any questions that you had throughout this presentation. If you're ready to sit down with a one-on-one with an advisor to help jump into this, feel free. Just scan the code or go to our website, westcentralmnsbdc.com. Find more resources, workshops, the handouts that we talked about today, and more. And you can also register for assistance. And as always, it's free and confidential. Thanks for joining us today, and I wish you the best of luck. I hope we'll hear from you soon.